Hey everybody, in this video you are going to get yourself caught up on our personal website project. So we went through some of your work and noticed that many of you are still putting in the content. So we wanted to make sure that you had a chance to get yourself caught up and understand where all the different pieces of information need to go, as well as start styling your website. For those of you that are 100% caught up, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. So let's get going and building this website together. So you should have started your personal website project. Initially, that was found under the post from Mr. Herman in the HTML file post, and you needed to open up this Google Apps scripts file. And once you opened up this file, what you needed to do was go to File and make a copy, and then make a copy and rename it your name, personal website, right? So I've already done that. And then in order to find it, if you already started one, which most of you should have, in Google Drive, what you should be able to do is type in your name, personal website, as long as you coded it the way that we suggested. You should see it pop up in your list. And you'll be able to tell which one is a Google Apps script file because it is a blue box with a white arrow on the inside. So if I were to double click on that, that would open up my personal website file. Now, what I need to make sure I do is I leave all of the information on the code.gs tab. You'll notice here on the left sidebar that I have 4 tabs. The only one that I'm going to manipulate, edit, change, whatever word you want to use, is the index.html file. So that is super important that you don't erase anything on the code.gs file. This will help make your website function. But the main part where we're going to build and write our HTML and CSS language is in the index.html tab. So on line 1, always when I'm writing a website, I have my doc type, HTML. And I need to make sure that I have that exclamation point in front. Then to structure next, my main container is my HTML, right? So this tells the computer, hey, we're writing in our HTML computer language. Next, I like to tab in a couple of spaces, and I'm going to put the open head. And this is where we put all of our invisible information, such as what our title tab name is going to be called on our actual website, right? So you'll notice up here at the top, all of these tabs have a name. The reason they have a name is because the programmer who wrote this code in the back end made sure that there was some sort of algorithm that had the title being named something specific to whatever you named your information in the upper left-hand corner. So I'm going to name this Miss Reale's opinion, right? Because we are making a website about our ELA opinion pieces that you wrote your articles on. And part of that also includes having an autobiography, right? So I'm going to name that as my website. I'm going to now close the title, right? So the title names the tab, T for title, T for tab. And then I'm going to close the head. So the title is always inside of the head. Okay, we're done with the invisible information. Now, I'm going to move on and I'm going to start the body. This is my visible information. So, in the body, I'm going to leave a bunch of space. I'm hitting return many times because in the body is where I put all the information that actually shows up on my website, right? Then I'm going to close the body at the bottom, and then I'm going to backspace and make sure that I line up my closing HTML. Notice how if I were to leave out, let's say I didn't put in the backslash for my closing one, it might give me an error message. In this case, it didn't. But if I were to open a p tag, let's say, and then write some information, if you don't close your tags or match them up, you're going to have issues with errors, and you're going to start seeing red instead of this green. The green means the elements are good to go. If the elements are red, that means there's some sort of error there. And when you go to publish your website, you're not going to see what you want to see, right? So see how that is red at this moment? That's because having just that less than sign out there in the middle of nowhere will cause an error in my file. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Green is the color you want to see for all of your elements. While we're talking about symbols and colors, we also have this red star next to index.html. Remember, even though this is a Google app script file and lots of Google things automatically save, this one does not. So it's really important that you save. So you have lots of options, Command S, the floppy disk here, or File, Save. All of them will save your work. You can tell it's saved because the index.html star next to it went away, right? So these are my 5 essential elements. I need all 5 of these in my file in order for my website to function. So if I were to run this right now, I would go to Publish, Deploy as Web App. I'm going to always name my new project version, whatever it is that I did. So added 5 essential elements. Right? So this is if I want to come back to an earlier project version, I know what I'm looking for. I'm going to change execute the app as user accessing the web. And who can access this? I'm going to change it to anyone, but it's still going to be within our school domain. So I'm going to hit deploy. And then in order to see this, I can either copy and paste this into a new tab, or I can click latest code. And this is what my website looks like. Obviously, it's a blank space. Why is it a blank space? It's a blank space because I have not put anything in my body, right? But what I did do is I named it, right? Miss Reale's opinion, and you can see that as I hover over it, there's the tab name. So now I'm going to come back and I'm going to add some content. So again, this overarching theme of this website is about your opinion pieces, right? So you can name it any clever pun or name that you want as long as it's school appropriate. And you want to start with a really large heading. So remember, headings are our H elements. The largest heading is in H1. The smallest heading is in H6. See how down here I have my body and my HTML have both turned red? That's because I have not added my closing H1 yet. So be very mindful of the color scheme, right? So I'm going to name this the same name that I named my tab. You do not need to name it exactly the same. You can change it up if you want. So this is going to be my main heading. Then I'm going to do some subheadings. So since I don't want these as big as my main heading, I'm going to put in an H3. So that's like a medium-sized heading. And this is where I'm going to put my autobiography. And in an earlier lesson, you should have already written out all the information for this section, and we're going to go back and look at where you would find that in a second. The next part you want to do is get set up for the paragraph that's going to go underneath this subsection, right, of the autobiography. So since this is going underneath it, again, I'm going to indent just by hitting the space bar a couple of times. So that way I know that this paragraph goes underneath my original, my heading here, my autobiography. So in order to find where I wrote that information for my autobiography, I'm going to go back to Google Classroom. And this is where I'm going to look for the assignment that we had that was about planning your website. So let me just scroll down a little bit more. For the different classes, it's going to be from different times. Okay. Let me scroll. Keep on going. Exit ticket, that's not it. Not quizzes. This is all too new. Purpose of a website. We're getting closer. And let's see. Oh, here it is. Personal website planning guide. So if I open this up, you guys will have a different view than what I do because you're going to be in your student account. But you should also be able to go under classwork if I'm not mistaken. And underneath web design, you should also see personal website planning guide. Same exact document. Okay, easier way to find it. In here, this is where you should have brainstormed what you wanted to say about yourself for your autobiography. So you should have listed out by bullet points here and then put it into a 5 to 7 sentence paragraph. If you did that, all you have to do now is copy and paste this information and now put that into your autobiography. So this is where you share your autobiographical information from the personal website planning guide found in Google Classroom. And if you don't have that information written out, you can write it out right into this file. So after you've written that whole 5 to 7 sentence paragraph, you need to now close this p tag, right? And then we're going to move on. So I'm going to backspace because I want to line up with that H3 again. I'm going to move down to line 12. I like creating space and also indenting, so that way, again, super clear as to what it is that I am working on. I'm going to now add, I'm going to add an image, so I'm actually going to indent a little bit again. So I need to add an image related to something that I talked about. Had I actually added my autobiography, something that I love is volleyball. You guys all know this because I coach at 442. So in order to add an image, we need to use the element for an image. The element for an image is simply the img tag. Now, an image needs some extra information, and what information it needs is the URL. So in order to set this up, it's sort of like a formula. You always write img space src. src stands for source, right? And all you did was take out the vowels, right? So if I took out the vowels, there's my SRC. So that's how you can remember the order that those letters go in. And the SRC is what's called an attribute. And all an attribute is extra information. So this is giving extra information to the img tag. So we're going to do an equal sign. Anytime after an equal sign, you always have a quote. Always, 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 always have a quote, okay? Now, I am going to find an image. So I'm going to take a volleyball picture. I'm going to right-click, so that's Control-click the mouse on a MacBook. I'm going to do copy image address, and now I'm going to come back to my website and paste that in, okay? I do a backslash. I close my quote, and then I do a backslash, and then a greater than sign, right? So again, if I open a quote, I need to close a quote. The image tag is a self-closing tag, so that just means that the slash goes inside. It's one of the only tags that we're going to work with for this project that is a self-closing tag. So now let's try saving this, and let's try publishing it to make sure that it worked. So I'm going to do deploy as web app. I could do a new project version. So again, I'm saving my project versions as I go. I added auto bio and pick, right? That's what I did. And then I leave the other two because I already changed that. Latest code. There it is, beautiful. In a future class, we'll talk about how to make this picture smaller. You could also find that in the supports in Google Classroom, the Live Binder video tutorials, if you want to change that sooner. For the purpose of right now, we're going to leave the picture that large, okay? Then we are going to go and start a new subsection. So this is going to be my ELA opinion essay. So you guys should have written in some sort of ELA opinion essay. Oops, and I totally did that wrong because I should have done an H3, right? Another medium-sized heading, and then closed it. Okay, and now again, I'm going to skip a line. I'm going to spacebar in a couple. I'm going to do my paragraph. This is where you copy and paste in your ELA essay. I think a lot of you wrote about children and gun violence. Some of you might have written about a different topic. Whatever it was that you wrote about for your ELA opinion piece, that's what goes in here. If it's multiple paragraphs, you can do multiple P tags around each and every single one, okay? Again, then you need to add a related image. So img src equals open quotes. Let's say I use this ELA picture. Again, this should be more related to whatever you wrote about. Copy image address. Just make sure your images are school appropriate. And then I'm going to paste that in, close quote, slash greater than sign, right? And now that's all the contents that I need to add in at this point. So I can bring up my closing HTML and my closing body so that way you can see it all on the one screen. Oops. Let me just fix that. I deleted it by accident. Okay, so this is what it should look like primarily. And then I'm going to save it. Okay, and now I'm going to do publish, deploy as web app. And then I'm going to do a new project version again, added, ELA, essay, and pick. Update, latest code. Here we are. Beautiful, hooray. Last two parts. I want to style. I want to add a background color. So in order to do that, I want to add this background color into my entire website. You can add background colors into just a single part. So I could add a background color, for example, just behind this paragraph to make it look like I highlighted it. I could add a background color just to my heading. I'm going to, though, add a background color to everything. So we're going to use something called style. So you can put style again in body in H1, H3, a P tag. You could add some style there as well. For the body, though, that means it will change the style of the entire website. So body space style. Notice how I didn't write another body in. Same body, just putting this inside of the less than and greater than sign, equals open quote. Now, again, this is like a formula. This is what's called your style formula. So you have your style equals, again, always, always, always a quote, and then you have the property. In this case, we're changing the background color, so we want to use the word background. Notice the properties are like a darker red color. I believe that will change over time. Now, I could write a color in, like I could just write in the word red, and then I want to use a semicolon to separate the properties from its value. So we have body, which is an element, just like how H1, H3, and the P tag and the IMG, those are all elements, right? They're all green. Style is an attribute, just like SRC, so attributes give us extra information. For the style one, we then need to add in a property. For this one, the property is a background color. So the background color property is just called background. Don't forget the G. Lots of kids forget the G. Then we separate the background from its value with a colon. So a colon is the two dots, okay? And then we could add more properties in here if we wanted to. So we leave a semicolon just to set that up for ourselves. And I'm going to add something else in there in a second. Let's check this out to make sure it works. So I should have a red background. I'm going to do save, deploy as red, web app, new project version, added red background. Let's see if this works. Update latest code. Yay! Look, I have a red background now. Awesome. So maybe I decide I want to have a white heading for this Miss Reale's opinion. Maybe even yellow. What you could also always look at is the W3 Schools color picker. This is where you can get really specific shades of color. So let's say, for example, I wanted some sort of yellow, but I didn't want the standard default yellow. Maybe I wanted something a little more mellow. So what I can do instead is what's called taking the hexadecimal code. A hexadecimal code is just 6 characters. That's what hexa means, 6, right? Like a hexagon. So I have the hashtag and then 6 characters, a mixture of letters and numbers. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it back here. Now I only want the Miss Reale's opinion to be yellow. I still want the rest of this to be black at the moment. So I can come back in here. I'm going to, instead of adding style into the body, which would change all font colors to yellow, I'm going to do it in the H1. So I'm going to go H1 style equals, open quotes. This one, in order for you to change your font color, the property is called color, okay? Colon, and I'm going to paste in that code, Again, put the semicolon in case I want to add any other style properties in here, and then the quotes, right? Everything looks good in terms of coloring. I have my closed body and closed HTML in green. Save this again, Command S, publish, deploy as web app. Project, new, added rather, yellow heading font color. Update. Let's see if this works. Latest code. Beautiful. So that is your mission. Your mission is to add all 5 essential elements. Your then mission is to add in your main large heading. Then you want to add in a subheading about your autobiography with paragraphs and images that are relatable and school appropriate. Then another subheading about your ELA opinion essay. You can name it whatever you want. Adding in a paragraph with related image as long as it's school appropriate. Then we want you to add in some styling. So choose a background color. If you want to get more creative with your background colors, watch the live binder videos. I'll open that up for you as well. If I come back to Google Classroom and go to Classwork, under Web Design, if I come to the HTML and CSS live binder videos, open up this link. If you're looking to not use a solid background color, you also have the option to add in a gradient background, which is like an ombre effect. Or you can add in a picture as a background using PC wall art background. So that's video 6 or video 15. If you're having trouble with anything that we just went over, there's also videos here to support you as well. And then we also want you to add in some font colors. So change up your font colors in different parts of your website, from the paragraphs to the headings. Maybe both of these H3 headings have the same color font, so that way they stand out to the viewer as opposed to the paragraphs being a different color, okay? So again, take a look at this. If you have questions, email us, and we will see you soon. Bye, 8th grade.